Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Evening People Show. I have a really special show for you tonight because I have a really special guest for you tonight. I have a guest I wanted on the show for a while, somebody I admired through the years. And I finally have her on the show. It's SallyAnn Gray. And she have a lot of good stuff that we're gonna cover. But before we get into all that, I just want to say thank y'all for being with me tonight. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with me. And I appreciate that. Let's go. All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Even People Show. Thank you so much for being with me tonight. And like I mentioned, we have a special show for you tonight. We always have fun on the show. If this is your first time joining the show, hello, hello. I'm Martin, I'm your host. And on this show, we do a lot of things. We always have some interesting people on. We talk about them, what they're doing. We read some poetry. We get into some things that we think can be beneficial to somebody out there. Today, we're going to talk about mindsets. We're going to talk about just how your perception of yourself, your perception of your role, your perception of who you are and your role in the world can affect your eventual outcome. So strap in, everybody. We're right at about cruising altitude right now. The pilot said that you can take off your seatbelt and walk about the cabin, and we're gonna make it a good one, right? So my guest tonight is none other than SallyAnn Gray. Now, SallyAnn Gray, like I said, someone I've always admired. She's very driven. And I'm gonna, like, I guess I had 2 weeks ago. I'm gonna like, what do they say? Redact some of her credentials. Because if I give you all her credentials and everything that she does and is doing, we're gonna be here a minute. So I'm gonna redact it and I'm gonna just give you some of the points. All right. But she's an educational consultant. She's a veteran special educator. She's a speaker and she's an award-winning author. She has several books out there. I have one of them right here. I hope it shows. I don't know why it's not showing. Show. This is the Renewal. This is one of her first books. I got that many moons ago. She has several that she's added to her accolades since that time. Anywho, without further ado, we're gonna get to it. Oh yeah.
Hi, Martin. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. I've actually wanted you on the show for a while, but I'm like, Sally, I'm too busy. When I reach out to her, she can't accommodate me for the show. But I'm like, you know what? I'm trying again, so I went for it, and here we are.
Here we are.
It is lovely to see you. I'm
Thank you.
gonna we're gonna jump right into it because we have a lot that I actually want us to cover. And the first half of the show is something that I've really wanted to get into for a while. But before I really get into the meat of the matter, now you're a lot of things to a lot of people. You have several roles that you play, like I mentioned initially. But if you were to identify two of those that are in your mind are your two top roles, like basically, how does Sally see herself? What would that look like?
I see myself as a woman of God. I believe that my relationship with God is first and foremost, who has been called to serve other people. And so, if I believe that I'm a woman of God, then I have to believe that one of the things that I've been called to do is to love people like God, to teach people like God and to empower people just like Jesus did when he was here. So I would say that that's the role that I consider the most important. And then rolling over from that is my role as a wife and mother, because I believe that there are a lot of people out here serving the world. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we can get things twisted. We can't serve the world if we're not serving our house. And so, my first ministry is to my husband to be a good wife, and then to my children to be a good mother. And so, I try to ensure that those things come first. And when those things are intact, my relationship with God, my relationship with my husband, my relationship with my children, then I can come into the space of
Right.
speaking and empowerment and media
Right.
and show up as what people say my best self, because I feel confident that the things that really matter are
Right.
getting the utmost attention.
I like that, Sally, and that speaks to who you are. That
Yes.
speaks to who you are, because if I were to ask somebody else that question, they would lead with their accolades. They would lead with their accomplishments. They could. There's so many other things that they would have led with
Mhm.
before they arrived at what you started out with. And I think that speaks to who Sally Ann Gray is and why she does what she does. Now, what drives Sally Ann Gray? What gets you out of bed in the morning?
Well, honestly, I was adopted. I'm a foster child. My mother, my biological mother, gave me away to a complete stranger when I was 3 months old. And how I came to be in the arms of my adopted father is quite a miraculous story.
Wow.
But at the time when I found out at age 11, 12, thereabout, I couldn't recognize it for the miracle that it was,
Hmm.
because I was immature and I was young, and my young brain couldn't process that.
Hmm.
But the minute I got to a place in my adult life where I was able to process, wow, it was the purpose of Janet McLean, who is my biological mother. I've never met her, but that's what it says on my birth certificate.
Right.
It was the purpose of Janet McLean to carry me and have me, but it was the purpose of Marjorie and Selburne Sharp to raise me. Two different things. And
Right.
so when I started to come into the understanding of purpose, I now recognize that it was my purpose to share my story with others so that they too could be empowered, that life is less about how or where you start, but the power you have to finish and finish well. So
Hmm.
every time I feel tired or weary, Lord, I can't bother, do one more interview, write one more book, do one more training, because
Yep.
it does get exhausting.
It
And I
does.
tell people, not because I'm a motivator, don't feel like I feel motivated every day. That's a
Right.
fallacy.
Right.
That's not the case, right? And so whenever I think about how committed my parents were to me,
Hmm.
and how much they loved me, even as a teenager when I was unlovable, one could
Hmm.
argue, when I was giving them a lot of trouble. My mother said, "It is my purpose to raise this child."
Right.
And so it is the memory of how I came to be their child, and the memory of how well they raised me, and the discipline and love that they were able to display in the midst of very difficult circumstances, that
Hmm.
lets me know, Sally, I have to get up and do this.
Wow.
Because if your parents didn't do this for you, you wouldn't be where you are. And so I cannot allow the heartache that
Right.
they went through to go in
Right.
vain.
So
I'm a product of
instead
that.
of using it or seeing it as a weapon against you, you weaponized it
Yes,
and use it as your weapon to get through the things that you would face.
absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
brilliant. That is brilliant. It's like I said to you in email this week when I went through, and I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't understand just how awesome Sally is. Like I think I said it. I said I knew you were doing good things, but you are really like you're on it. And hearing your story now even solidifies that point even more. Now let's look at this from a Sally and the award-winning author standpoint. I only have one book. I know there's at least three. How many books really are there? How are they doing? And what advice would you have to young authors that are coming up in that business?
All right, thank you so much. So I've written four books. The first one, The Renewal, Revive Everything Necessary, Empower Within. The second one is Planted in Purpose, What's Feeding Your Roots. The third one is Wayward Teen to Transformed Queen, which is me,
Mhm.
Strategies to Help Your Teenager Succeed. And that's an 8-step guide for parents of teenagers. And I believe that that's my best work in my personal opinion because I
Right.
share a lot of tools that my parents use with me and tools that I use as a special education teacher with students dubbed the worst of the worst,
Mhm.
right? It's the most impactful in my opinion. And then the fourth book that I wrote is How to Become a Professional Speaker. And that's a guide to helping young authors and young speakers establish their speaking business, if you will.
Mhm.
Someone who wants to come out in the professional speaking space. I don't tend to market that book a lot unless I am marketing it through my company, Global Speakers, for the purpose of training. But
Right.
it's there online if someone wants to just purchase the book and read it as a resource without doing the training. The advice that I would give to young authors is stay true. Don't write a book just because it's cool to write a book.
Right.
Stay true to your message, stay true to who you are, irrespective of what others have done and what others have tried to accomplish through their book. You do
Mhm.
what God has laid on your heart.
Right.
And know that writing the book is the easiest part of the process.
I know, right?
Selling it is the hardest part. Getting people to actually pick it up off a shelf or take the time to read it, and that is usually done by you ensuring that you have some type of social media presence and that you're authentic with people purchase dreams, they
Mhm.
purchase stories, they purchase your authenticity. It's not so
Right.
much the book. And let's be honest, people support people they like,
True.
so the truth is you have to be likable. And I'm not saying that it means that you're gonna have to agree with everyone.
Right.
You have to work on yourself first before you start marketing a book, because you'll do a video to try and market it and people walk away like,
Then not really feel it.
I really feel the video. It come off a little fake, or
Yeah.
and so the better you, better outcomes you'll get. And so from a personal development standpoint, I always tell people that you have to develop yourself first.
All
Okay.
right.
So that's what I would tell authors, is that make sure you're very convicted about what you're writing about and that it's coming from a real place, so that that authenticity translates through your marketing so that
Mhm.
people will actually purchase your book. Or
Hey, like Mel says, yes to dreams, stories, and authenticity. You can't deny it if it's authentic. I said this to someone very recently about Bob Marley, actually. I said, no matter how you feel about Rastafarianism or reggae music, you hear him talk about it and you have to check it out because he
you
was so
have to.
convinced and so
Yes.
convicted by it.
Yes,
He talks
absolutely.
about it, and you want to listen to some reggae, or you want to at least find out what is this Rastafarian business because of how he presents it. And you came
Absolutely.
back to the same thing right now. Now, on that same breath, talking about authenticity, talking about self, talking about people being true to themselves, um, what you do is what I see it as something that is relevant and can never be overstated. Now, before we get into what it is, why is what you do relevant and necessary, and what are some of the things that limit our mindset?
Mhm. So what I do, the body of my work is, so my philosophy is I remain committed to growth in all areas of my life. And when I grow others.
Right.
And growth cannot take place without an expanded mindset around a certain set of principles or things. So I realized very early on that the reason why I was not successful my definition of success was because I had a limited mindset, and that limited mindset had plagued me from my teenage years through to early adulthood. And so it prevented me from thinking like the daughter of a true king. And
Right.
so once I stepped into that shifted mindset, as I called it, I was able to see differently. And if you can see better, you can do better, right?
Right.
Because the best book in the world tell us that without a vision, the people perish.
True.
So you want to ensure that your mind is where it needs to be to move forward in a very powerful and vision oriented way, right? And so that's why I speak to the power of mindset, because I know the quality of my life during my poor mindset years, and I know the quality of my life now. And if
Mhm.
I can share a story, a testimony, an experience with persons and help to shift their mindset into a more positive place where from that place, they can yield better results, then I consider that the core of my work on this planet. Our mind is like a seed, right?
Mhm.
And if you take up a seed right now, Martin, a seed is a seed and it's
Right.
still small, right? Um, and within that seed has the potential to produce over 100 fruits. Yes.
True. Yes.
But if that tree stays in a dark room, if that seed stays in a dark room, it will always just remain
I
that
see.
seed.
True.
Now, if you take that seed outside of its normal environment, or the environment that has caused it to remain a seed, and place it in some good soil and fertilize it and give it some water and some sunlight, suddenly roots start going down,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
suddenly, once it's firmly rooted in the ground, so that's why I talk about planted in purpose, it's firmly planted in something positive, then you start to see the bark coming out. And
Yes.
then once the bark, then you see the stems and the leaves,
Mhm.
and then
Mhm.
suddenly fruit
Yeah.
comes,
True.
right?
True. True.
So if and it's the same thing with our mind. If we don't place our mind in soil that will allow it to grow, see
Mhm.
differently, so that it can do differently, then we will always stay where we are. And so I always tell people that your mind, guess what, is the seed of your success, and it can also be your worst enemy. So you have to treat it well, you have to water it well, and you have to place it in the right environment.
I don't think that could have been said better anyway at all. I don't think that was possible to have been said better. Now, in your presentations, you use terms like a mindset renewal,
Yes.
mindset revolution. How does this work? What are they, and how do they work for the individual or group?
Okay, so in my first book, The Renewal, I chronicle some steps that I took to shift my mindset. And it's interesting to note that um, mindset renewal is ongoing throughout one's life. You don't just go through the steps and, oh, I'm renewed, I'm good to go. No. For every situation, for every season in your life, for every job, for every relationship, you have to do a resetting of the mind, because for every situation, you're coming with baggage from the old situation. And if you don't work through that space and read and put yourself around the right people to ask questions, you will stay stuck in a space.
Right.
So the first thing that somebody has to do, painful as it is to change the people that they associate themselves with. Now, there is an interesting study that came out of Harvard University a number of years ago
Mhm.
that speaks to the fact that brain waves mimic each other. And that's why in Jamaica we have a term that says, show me your company, tell me who
Tell
you
me who
are.
you are, right?
Really comes from a true place. So this scientific research indicated that over time, when people spend at least 70% of their time together, their brain waves start to mimic each other. So
Wow.
that means you start to think like them and do like them. So if you
Mm-hmm.
notice, maybe like for you, let me give a practical example. So you're a guy, you may have some brethren that you go and you play football with every Sunday, or
Mm-hmm.
you have a roommate maybe when you were younger, you
Right.
guys. So if him come in the room and say something like "Wagwan, brother," or him have a certain terminology, after a while you will recognize that you start to use that terminology unconsciously.
Can I
You
tell you
start
something?
shake hand like your brethren, then he
Mm-hmm.
start, and you're like, huh? And I remember I was close to a female friend who was not necessarily the best influence on me in the early part of my relationship with my husband. And he would be like, "You sound like so and so." No, man, you start roll like so and so. And I'm like, "Really?" And I didn't recognize it. And
Right.
so, what this study says is that when you spend more than 70% of your time with a particular person or group of people, you will start to mimic
Mm-hmm.
unconsciously some of their things. It's like the hidden curriculum in
Right.
education,
No, well,
right?
everybody in my house, Sally, to give you a quick example as well.
Yes.
When my nieces were born, everybody in the house, when they started talking, everybody in the house started calling. My parents changed from mommy and daddy to grandma and grandpa.
Yes.
And my siblings and myself called my mom grandma and my dad grandpa because of my nieces and nephews.
Exactly. So, if we are conscious and present in our environment, we will start to see the subtle things that change when we're around certain people, which includes our thinking. And
Mhm.
so, that's why they always say get a mentor. Speak with somebody who has gone further than you, who has seen more than you, because what they'll start to do is engage you in a higher level conversation
Mhm.
about where it is that you want to go. And so, does this mean that you have to stop hanging around the people that you grew up with, even if you don't feel you and them on the same level? No,
Right.
it
Right.
just means that when you are intentional about changing some things in your life, it may mean that for a season, you may have to distance yourself from
Mhm.
persons who currently have a reality that you no longer want to be a part of. For example, if you and a friend share a drug use habit, certainly you don't think that in the initial stages of you trying to break that habit that you
Right.
can continue hanging
Yeah.
out with that friend who
Can't
has
work.
no interest in breaking the habit,
Can't
because
work.
they're gonna suck you back in
Yeah.
because you're not strong enough yet to withstand. Yes, you can go back and help them, but you can't try to help them while you're helping yourself get
Mm-hmm.
out of the situation. And
Mm-hmm.
so the first mindset tip that I give to persons is you have to change who you are around, what you listen to, what you watch, and what you read. You have to be intentional. I remember I have a friend who is a worship leader, and he said something very profound one morning in church. He said, "Music does not ask permission to enter your spirit." And he said, think about when you're driving to work and you're listening to some music that is not even really your music, but maybe you
Right.
can even find your CD and you listen to it and then you just find yourself in the night, you just whatever the song is, and you're like, I don't even like that
I
song. I
don't
don't
even
even
like
like
that
that
song.
artist.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
seriously? And so music doesn't ask permission to enter your spirit. Neither does these mindset triggers and all of these things. You have to be careful what you're surrounding yourself with and
Mm-hmm.
ensure that you're feeding your mind the right things. So in order for me to have gotten to this place where I was so positive, I literally went through one entire year of not watching TV. I share this with people all the time because I had to become very intentional about what I was watching. So I cut off a lot of things, and every morning I would wake up, I'd do my devotion, and then I would feed myself with some Les Brown in the morning, or Jim Rohn, or one of those motivational persons through YouTube to recondition the mind and my outlook to
Right.
things. I was a very negative person. If you talk to me about a situation, I'd be quick to point out the negative thing first. And so people think that I've always been this very optimistic, positive mindset person. Yay, go. No, I know the transformation that can take place. So to
Mhm.
answer your question, the first thing, change who you're hanging around, change what you're listening to. You have to switch up your routines. You have to do what successful people do. It's
Right.
not hard. Success can be for everybody.
Mhm.
Successful people aren't some anomaly like just come out of thin air and successful.
Mhm.
Successful people have successful habits, disciplines, and routines. And so you have to find now. So after that, you have to now move into finding persons who you emulate, persons who are living the end result that you desire, and figure out a way how you can get in their presence.
Mhm.
you know,
Yep.
so that you can know they'll just automatically rub off on you,
Yeah.
literally. And that happened to me and my husband. So, change up your routine, change up your what you're doing in the morning. You have to start your day a certain way. You have to ensure now that you're setting goals. Second point. So we've gone through the reconditioning. You
Mhm.
have to set goals. You don't want to be a man with no abiding city. Everything
Mhm.
is blow. You're gone here, so goals help you to be able to say no to people, things, and situations that do not align with where you're going. And if
Mhm.
you don't know where you're going, then you will go with any train. And
Right.
so you have to know, use the influence of these new mentors, friends, associates in your life to really sit and have the conversation with yourself and these persons. What is my purpose? Where am I going? What is the end of this? Why have I been placed on the earth? Like, seriously.
Mhm.
And the reason why people become so addicted to social media and just waste their time away doing mindless things is because what they don't want to spend time with themselves. Why you don't want to spend time with yourself? Because you don't know where you're going. You don't know what you're doing.
Right.
Then Instagram is attractive because it's mindless scrolling, looking at what everybody else is doing because you don't have anything to do.
Right.
So if you set some goals and have a vision board, write the vision and make it plain. Every time I go on Instagram or Facebook, I tell you I don't even go on social media a lot. I post and I bounce because I have so many things I'm focused on. And if I find
Mhm.
that I'm under 15 minutes too long with the idleness, I look on my vision board. I have it on my phone as a screensaver. I have it on my wall first thing when I wake up in the morning. And I'm like, oh, gotta go, gotta go. I have my goals for the week. I'm ticking off. I'm minding my own business. But you can't mind your own business if you don't really have any business to mind, can you? So
You have to get some
you have
business or you mind
to,
everybody else business.
so you have to set some goals and become
Mhm.
intentional about that. And then once you change what you listen to, who you're around, and all of that, automatically you'll want to set some goals. And when you set some goals now, you start to take some serious action, consistent action towards these goals. And whatever your goal is, everybody won't be a speaker, everybody won't have a YouTube channel, everybody won't write a book. Maybe your goal is to impact public health or help the elderly. You don't have to be something where you're on a stage, like
Right.
what Martin and I do. But whatever your gift to the planet, serve it to the world and do it with integrity and with love and with passion, right? And then people will get on board. And when you're consistent in meeting a goal and you've disciplined yourself, the minute that goal starts to manifest, my God, when you start to see the results, it's the best feeling. Now, once
Mhm.
you start to see results, right, then
Mhm.
nobody will have to fight you to wake up in the morning because now you have your formula and
Yes.
so you can replicate it. And once you start to see those results, it's like gold to you when you say, you know what, I'm gonna finish my book manual in 6 months, and you get
Mhm.
it done. You deny yourself some things for that period, and you surround yourself with people who can help you, and you get it done. And then you have your manuscript in your hand. Who can talk to you now?
True.
You can talk to you. And then you're like, all right, I'm on to the next. Okay. All right. next 2 months, this needs to be on Amazon. What do I need to do? And so once you start with the end goal in mind and then you peel back monthly targets and weekly targets, and that's what helps you to stay focused. And once you're going through that process, nobody don't have to tell me that it worked. I've lived it. So I know it works, right?
Mhm.
Then you won't have time to look to the left or to the right or to get off course or to feel stressed out. Your mind now has
Yes.
started to become addicted to results. So, Martin, me, environments where it's one bag of talking and nothing
Yeah.
but
Nothing
talking,
get done.
I am like,
Yep.
about results. I can't take the whole heap of talking, Martin. Let's just focus on what the results are and what we're gonna do to get it done. Excuses are not results.
True.
Trying, not a result. I want to write a book. The book is the result. I'm going to
Hmm.
do a Barnes and Noble book signing. The book signing is the result. Not, oh, I'm going to try. I want to start a YouTube show. The YouTube show is the
Is
result.
the result.
Everything else is working towards that end goal. So me, I just tell people, stop all the talking. You don't have to prove anything to anybody.
Just
Just
get
get
it
it
done.
done.
Just
Just
get
get
it
it done.
done.
And
Now,
stop culturing your brain to accept incomplete goals.
right.
Culture your brain to accept the results. And that's
Mhm.
how my brain is now. Can't take the talking.
Yep. Now, before some persons get to that point,
Hmm.
um, they sometimes they go through a period, or the reason they're not getting there is because of self sabotage.
Yes.
Now, how does this self sabotage usually present itself within teen parents or personal development? And are the sufferers usually aware that they're sabotaging themselves?
No, no. I don't think people are really genuinely aware of when self sabotage is taking place. But it goes back to my original point of ensuring that you're surrounding yourself with certain people.
Mhm.
Because if you are around persons or sharing your dreams and your issues with people who have already walked that road, they can quickly set you up. But Martin, listen to what you're saying. You think that that's something that's going to help you towards this goal? Think about what you're saying. Think about your thinking patterns. You think that that's something that's going to be helpful towards this goal? So quickly the people around you will be able to identify it and what help you to move forward, right? So that is why I tell people you cannot go about sharing your goals with everybody, because sometimes the self-sabotage starts with somebody else planting a seed in your mind. That
Mhm.
does sound like it can work. No,
Mhm.
sir.
Well, it's
Right? And guess
what you
what?
mentioned
They self
before.
impose their limitations on you. Everything that you do on the planet is is dependent on the environment that you are in.
Mhm.
Guys, take this from me. Okay? It is dependent on the environment that you're in. You hear they always tell you behind every great man there's even a greater woman. Just check out a man with a wife that is not really concerned about his well-being, and then check him out 10 years later with a wife who is really encouraging him and helping him to achieve his goals. Completely two different things, right? No
Mhm.
matter how strong willed you are, we all need love, affection, and support, the right kind. Okay. So I don't think people understand when they're being self sabotaged. Self sabotage, in my personal opinion, I'm not a psychologist, starts by having the wrong people around you, planting wrong seeds. Okay. And even if it's coming from the person, it's because an incorrect seed was planted years or months before by what somebody said. You can't do that. You're
Mhm.
not worthy enough. You're not pretty enough. You're not driven enough. But when you go and about to go and write book, somebody said something to that person that really enabled them to downgrade themselves, and with
Mhm.
that downgrading of self their esteem was broken, so it caused them to believe a certain way about themselves. Okay.
Mhm.
And so how that is built up is by reconditioning the mind, making sure that you put those routines in place, especially in the morning. And again, there's some more research that speaks to the fact that what you put in your brain the last hour before you go to bed And the first hour after you wake up actually determines how your brain will process for that day.
Really?
Yes. So you have to be very careful. So, like when I was like, before I was this renewed person, and I used to love watching TV, which is why I tell you I had to come off a TV series and Lifetime. And I used to watch all of these Lifetime movies with women who were good, everybody stressed out, and one bag of killing. And then I would be so paranoid in the house. After the movie, I'm walking around and I'm checking doors and windows. And my husband said, "Go to your bed. What's wrong with you?" Guess what? That Lifetime movie conditioned how I was. And that's why I was so paranoid about so many different things.
Hmm.
I had to start feeding my mind in a different way so that I could shift from that. And it's real. The research is out there. You guys can go Google it.
Okay, now let's do this. Let's talk about what first steps. Let's talk about what somebody that is in this self-sabotaging spiral, what can they do as a first step toward a solution?
Okay, like tomorrow morning, like tonight, you can start with some personal affirmations. Honestly, what is it that you hope to be? What is it that you hope to be? What is it that you want to achieve? You can write some personal affirmations tonight. So I'm going to repeat some personal affirmations that I taught my children 2 years ago. Malachi is 10, Sarah is 5. They know it by heart. They say it every single day. Now imagine if they say this every single day until they each turn age 18. I don't know who can come in them dorm room and sell and try to sabotage them, because no, I brainwashed my children quite effectively into knowing who they are. And so
Right?
their affirmations start with, I'm the head, I'm not the tail. I'm a leader, I'm not a follower. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. I'm a child of God. I'm free from all generational curses. Today I will be a blessing to my teachers and friends. I show love and I have joy. I am at peace and I show kindness. I am gentle and full of faith. My body is free from disease, right? I'm rich in all areas of my life, and God loves me. Taught my children that
Oh,
2 years ago. And if I call them in front of the camera right now, they can recite it to you. You know why?
all
Because
time
I
now.
have to tell my children who they are. I'm not going to leave it up to the world to tell them. And I have
Mhm.
to start now. So since we didn't get that from our parents, what we have to do, Martin, we have to do it
No, not
ourselves
true.
now.
True that, true
So
that.
right now, tonight, you want something practical? You can write some personal affirmations of the person that you hope to be, and you start saying that to yourself starting tonight. And I just recited that to you as an example of what you can put in that. And every night before you go to your bed, and every morning when you wake up, you repeat that to yourself. You can start with personal affirmations, they work. Google it. The research is there. You don't have to believe me. Google it, okay? So you can start with some personal affirmations. Second thing, okay, that I would recommend is that you need to now write down, take inventory, okay, of the persons that you spend the most time with. The top 5 to 10 people that you spend the most time with. These two you can do tonight. You need no counselor, you don't need no psychologist, you don't even need study with you, because I'm telling you right now,
Mhm.
take inventory and start asking yourself some serious questions. Does this person support me? Is this person in support of me changing and evolving into the best version of myself? Um, does this person want to see me do well and be successful? Huh? Okay. When was the last time that they displayed love and affection and encouragement towards me? And I'm not talking about just your partner, I'm talking about all friends, right? And then once you do that, then you can now start to think about and pray about and ask yourself, which one of these persons do I need to distance myself from seeing?
Mhm.
All right. Okay. Now, when you do that, we need friends. Okay. I always tell people sharing is not the problem. Who you share with is, because we all need love and affection and support. Let's not
Right.
trick ourselves. All right.
Right.
So once you do that, now you can start thinking about some persons who are living in a way that you would want to live, are displaying morals and values and attitudes that you would want to possess, and consider asking one or two of these persons to be a mentor or an accountability partner.
Mm-hmm.
Are two things you can do tonight or in tonight into tomorrow. Because you said practical and right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So you can do those things. And then once you do that, I want you to sit and ask yourself, what is my purpose on the planet? Like, why was I born? Like, seriously. Because a lot of times people say, I don't know what my purpose is.
So a lot
But
of people don't even ask themselves the question, Sally. A lot of them don't even ask themselves the question at all.
you just no, okay, so guys, let me put this in context. And this is no disrespect to any working class person. I work. But the question, I want you to put it in the right context. Entrepreneurship is not for everybody. So I'm not speaking about work from the perspective of entrepreneurship solely. But I just want you to ask yourself this. You think that you were born just for go school, get a good education, go college and get a degree, and work and go and live somebody else's purpose and vision for 30 years and then retire and just got dead, so? Just so? I just don't believe that. And so, what I want you to do now is ask yourself, I'm not telling anybody to leave their job. What I'm saying is, ask yourself, what are my gifts? What are my talents? And how have I utilized them to serve the world? Because
Mm-hmm.
you're not gonna find fulfillment outside of that. I guarantee you. I
Mm-hmm.
guarantee you, you're not gonna find fulfillment outside of doing what you're called to do. Okay? And so what you're called to do is to use your gifts and your talents to advance the welfare of the human race. That is in the Jamaican pledge, right?
Right.
All of us are here to advance the human race in our own little way in different arenas and pockets, health and education and all of these things, government and politics. What are you called to? Right?
Mm-hmm.
In your little way, how can I make the world a better place? Ask yourself, and you don't need a pastor to speak into your life to tell you what your gift is. You don't
I
know
know, right?
you don't know where you gift, what you do well. What do you do well? What do you
Mm-hmm.
do effortlessly?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody has to I don't need no prophet to prophesy to me that I have the gift of oratory, that I can speak to people and empower people and inspire people. And I'm also humble enough to know that I was given that gift by God, but I know what my gift is. You
Right.
understand what I'm saying, Martin? So now, how am I going to use this gift to give back? Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I want you guys to understand the difference between profession and purpose. Your profession may be to be a nurse. You may go to a ward every night. That is your nine
Mm-hmm.
to five. That's your stable. Don't make
Mm-hmm.
nobody trick you and tell you if you leave your job tomorrow, you were dead for hungry.
You understand?
However, yeah, man, nobody make nobody trick you. But however, that's my profession. All right. How do I explain this? Your gift will make room for you and bring you before great kings. The Bible didn't say your degree will make room. Okay. Maybe, Martin, maybe if you mute your mic while I'm talking.
I
I'm not
can. I heard it very briefly.
All right. So the Bible says your gift will make room for you. It didn't say your degree will make room for you. Your degree refines your giftings. So if your degree refines your giftings, then we have to make the distinction, and I talk about it in my second book, Planted in Purpose, the distinction between purpose and profession. So you may know your profession now. Yes, everyone on this tonight is an adult. You must be working to sustain yourself somewhere or the other. But what is your purpose? What is the gift and the talents that God has given to you that you can utilize, be it a side thing? You don't have to leave your job to do it. Some people will eventually leave their job to do it. But how can you start there? This is a question I want everybody to ask themselves tonight. Why was I born? What is the dash between the day I die and the day I was born and the day I die, what will it mean? That dash on your tombstone, what is it gonna mean? Is it gonna mean that I did wake up and I got a good degree and I got a good job and then I just work for Mr. Chin for 30 years and dead? Bluff. No, no. Sally was kind. She was passionate. She loved people. Used her life to sow into people. You know, all know, ask Martin. I've been on the interview 45 minutes. I've
Yep.
made no mention of my degrees. Not one.
And they're
Not
there.
one.
And they're there. But I mentioned that earlier. I mentioned it earlier when I asked you, who is SallyAnn Gray, what drives her, and the two things that you listed had nothing to do with your degrees at all. It had nothing to do with accolades, so to speak. It spoke more to who you are as a person or how you perceive yourself in the world.
Absolutely.
And I think that's definitely necessary for persons to actually get to that next level of understanding that, hey, beyond what I do for a living. I actually had to correct somebody. You think I write poems for a living? I don't write poems for a living. I have a 9 to 5. I can write poetry. I can write. That comes to me naturally in my sleep without effort. But no, we're not there yet. We're writing books, but we're not there yet. Anyway, Sally. Now
Uh-huh.
let's look at limitations and purpose. Talk to me about how your own perception of how our own perception of our purpose limits us and why, and how can we grow out of that state and get back on track.
Our perception of purpose, I think I just spoke a little bit to
Yes,
it.
you did. Mhm.
Um, our purpose is that thing that we were called to do on the planet. Like literally, if you don't do it, you're robbing a percentage of the population of the impact that you could have on them.
Mhm.
Okay. Um, everybody has a different purpose and it will show up differently for others. And I think what blindsides some people is that you may be in an environment and you see other people you see people thriving in purpose a certain type of way, and you make up in your mind that it has to look the way that they have pursued. And that's why I always tell people, not because you see me and Martin write a book, mean that it's your purpose to write a book just because you're looking for something to do.
Mhm.
Listen, I'm a big advocate of minding your business and staying in your lane, right? So, whatever you are called to do, find a way to formalize that and do what you're called to do because that's the only way you can live it and do it authentically and
Mhm.
passionately.
Mhm.
And the reason why a lot of major entrepreneurs, Jeff Bezos and the Steve Jobs of our time, were able to get people on board is because what they did, they were born to do it. Like nobody can convince me that Steve Jobs was not born to create Apple. Though his methods were a little bit unconventional, right? Because we all have our issues, he brought such passion to the table that investors had to listen to him. Jeff Bezos, who started Amazon, when he started Amazon, listen, it was him and his wife alone. But guess what? As time progressed, he got major partnership and investments from very wealthy people when he was literally just starting out, a little young 20 something year old. Why? Those wealthy people not going to put $1 million into your business just because you have a Harvard degree. No, it's passion, it's vision, it's conviction. So you have to remain focused on your purpose and not be blindsided by other people's purpose. And you do that by conviction. Conviction, because you know that you know that you know that you know that you were born to do this. Guys, sometimes I reread my own books, honestly, and I have to say, mighty God, I was really born to write. Seriously.
but you don't feel like it all the time, Sally.
You
And this
don't
is what
feel
I
like
think
it.
people don't get.
But
This
it's
is
when
the
you
part.
revisit the work, you're
Mhm.
like, oh my God. So I get the conviction after reviewing the results that, yo, I couldn't have done this on my own, possibly. That there's a higher being at work in this. Okay. And so, guys, don't get blindsided by the glitz and the glamour. I think social media tricking up a lot of people. We think that our reality has to match what people only put their best moments on social media in most cases, right? So you are getting blindsided and off track
Mhm.
by somebody's best moment on a particular day of what they chose to post,
Now,
including me, because I'm not
yeah,
posting when me pop down and my head stays so I'm look mad and crazy,
you're
or I'm
mad.
not posting when I'm crying and I feel stressed out. Nobody is doing that.
But here's the thing too, though, Sally. A lot of the time, what it is when we're hustling and when we're doing what we do, we actually don't have time to post. So when you see me post, is the one day out of the week when we actually have time for actually slow down. The rest of the time when I'm not posting, this is not what I'm doing. I'm
Ex-
hustling. When I stop hustle and come up for air, that's when I have a moment to
You
think
can
about
say, all
taking a
right,
quick breath.
mama see what go on upon the grammar, upon the book,
Mhm.
and do
Mhm.
two little scrolling and you're gone again. Gone
Mhm.
again.
That's what I think that's where the disconnect is. Now, Sally, what is next for Sally and Gray? What are any upcoming project, any upcoming books? What do we have going on next?
All right. Well, my husband and we are writing a book on marriage, which is something that I never ever thought I'd do, guys. I'm not a marriage counselor. I'm not no relationship expert right about now. I'm even wondering, should we be writing this book? However, what we recognize is that a lot of persons have been reaching out to us for relationship advice. And so we're just going to package it in a book, and talk about the mindset behind marriage and some truths that we had to come into in order for our marriage to get to where we're at today. We're not perfect. We're not the perfect married couple. We still have our issues, but what we have mastered, we are willing to share it with the world. So
Excellent.
that's one project that we're working on. I can't speak to a release date and I can't share the title of the book yet, but that's coming up. Um, I'm in the process of doing my doctorate, so I'm currently a doctoral scholar. So
Very nice. Very
I'm
nice.
doing my doctorate in educational leadership, specifically the track for higher education. And so at this point, I'm very concerned about ensuring that higher education policies and laws are fostering um, the programs, or putting out programs that will help the world to meet labor market realities 20 years from now. I think a lot of the degrees on the table are obsolete, and I think some of the courses within some of the degrees have died a very slow death over the
Mhm.
years. And
Mhm.
I don't believe that universities are being held accountable to ensure that when somebody graduates, they have a viable, well earning job. And so we need to start looking towards the future and helping universities to create policy and timelines around what is the lapse time. If a degree was being offered in 1950 with these set courses to this set thing, I mean, seriously, when do we revise? Okay, when do we meet as a board of directors and trustees at a university and say, bloop, this degree is obsolete, it won't be needed in the next 20 years,
Mhm.
let's phase it out? Or if we're not phasing it out, what are the courses within that degree program that can be replaced with some more forward thinking
Right.
content?
Very nice.
And
Yeah.
so that is a contribution that I want to make to higher education. So I'm doing my doctorate in that, working on the book. um my son is about to be 11 in December. My daughter is about to be 6 in January. My daughter and my son are very gifted, and so in terms of a project, honestly, I have to include my family. I am working on a project called SallyAnn Gray being the best mom she can be. And so I'm just in a space of
Lifelong project right there.
a space of evolution and stuff. But right now, I'm largely focused on my studies. And of course, the speaking. I have some speaking engagements coming up in 2022. I had to kind of limit the amount of speaking engagements I took for the last half of 2021 because I started the studies
Right.
and so on. But yeah, more to come, and
Right.
I'm just looking
Nice.
to spread my wings more on an international level and so on.
You know, Sally, and somebody said to me the other day when I have people on the show, why I don't focus more on the poetry like up front, why I don't talk more about the poetry up front. And I say, you don't understand what I'm trying to do here. What I'm trying to do here is more
Poetry.
than the poetry. You see what I'm
Yes.
saying? What I'm trying to do here is to identify individuals out there that have something to offer that everybody else everywhere can benefit from. You see what I'm saying? So not
Yes.
everybody gonna buy a copy of my book, and I already know that, and it's fine. You know what I mean? But there are people that are. But here's the thing: look at the things that we've talked about today. The guests I had on there last week, the guests I had on there the week before. These are positive things that people out there can actually benefit from. And I'm more about getting that out there as well as somebody say, oh, the poetry did nice to the part they did later or whatever. You still want, because we're talking about mindsets. We're talking about changing people, how people approach life. We're talking about people elevating themselves to a next level by their own bootstraps. You know what I mean? Not waiting on massa, not waiting on whoever to come and fix their situation for them. It's empowering them to go fix the situation. Now, how could I deny that? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And to me, that is definitely something that needs to be said by someone who has lived it and can say it in a way that, like you've said it, so that somebody can hear it. All the comments are saying the same thing: real talk, yes, pure, a CM so. You know what I mean? Because people, like you said initially, you have to be putting the thing out there in such an authentic way so that when somebody see it, them can feel it, them can identify with it, and then we roll with it more so that way. Anyways, that being said, we do have to read some poetry because we are on the Evening People Show.
Yeah.
So anything else you want to share before we actually transition to that?
Well, what I want to encourage people to do is just be committed to growth, be committed to stretching yourself and improving yourself and becoming the best version of yourself every single day. And if you want better results, you have to become a better person. So start there.
Plain and simple, plain and simple. All right, peoples, we're on the Even People Show, and on the Even People Show, we gotta read some poetry. That's kind of like our jam, you know what I mean? So, but Sally, and that first half of the show was brilliant. It was everything I thought it was gonna be when I invited you on the show, and I'm sure everybody, all the viewers, feel the very same way.
Thank you.
Now, you ready? What are you gonna read for us today?
Living, right?
Living, right? Living has a question sign beside it too. So we're reading Living today. If you have your books, it's page 28 and 29 of the book. It's one of the longer poems in there. But take it away when you're ready, my dear.
Living, but only 12 hours a day. The other 12 is for the man. Next best thing to being a slave. A slave to the system and its ways. In bed by 10, at work by 8, lunch at 12, the special at the usual spot. The time allotted allows nothing but out by 4:30, maybe 5, pinching myself to see if I'm alive. Still, my actions are not my own. The man dictates what I do at home. How is this, you ask? Let's see, where do I start? Pick the kids up on time or pay the charge. No unapproved items outside the garage. No sprinkling the lawn before sundown. No dogs unattended to run around. Excuse me, sir, your music's too loud. We're having an HOA meeting and you're disturbing the crowd. Ha! And don't even think of leaving home. in case some wannabe George Zimmerman lives in your town. Oh, wait, it's already almost 8. A whole 2 hours for myself. I can hardly wait. I might watch a game of soccer that will take me to 10, then up at 6, just to do it all again. Living, put simply, having life. But is it really living when your day lacks choice? The special at lunch, the game before bed. Dare you wear those shoes you like? Best follow the dress code instead. Do you get it? Living. More like structured shades. Or is this what living looks like at the end of days? And it's quite okay to think I'm tripping. If you had a choice, you'd know what you're missing.
He had a choice.
Oh, keep going.
Yes.
And I get it. You're an adult with bills to pay. That's what everybody does, right? So they say. Cheers to V for Vendetta. Or is that too extreme? How do you know? You see life through a screen. A screen, an illusion that puts you in charge. Mind control at its best, the ultimate mirage. Free like we want to be, not even close. There goes my alarm, initiating Monday's woes. And that's a selection from the Chronicles of a Black Man, Book 3, Confrontation.
Book three, confrontation, man. I don't know. It's like you said, sometimes you look back at some stuff you write and you're like, man, it's like, man.
Man.
Here we go. The last line says, there goes the alarm initiating Monday's woes. It's like here we go again.
Here we go again,
Right?
yo.
So the poem is living with a question sign.
Mhm.
Looking at the first two stanzas, what do they tell us about that question sign in the title? Why is it there? And what does it represent? Now, the first two stanzas, real quickly, says, living, but only 12 hours a day. The other 12 is for the man, the next best thing to being a slave to the system and its ways, in bed by 10, up by 8, lunch at 12, the special at the usual spot, the time allotted allows nothing but. What kind of picture are we seeing emerge here?
Somebody who is a slave to 9 to 5.
9 to 5 have them off soft, innit?
Have them away.
9 to 5 have them away. All right, let's keep it moving.
Mhm.
If we add stanza 3 to the mix, we see a pattern emerging. There
Mhm.
seems to be a somewhat almost robotic nature to the actions being described. Do you think this is representative of the average person in today's world? And if yes, why? And if no, why? Standards 3 says, out by 4:30, maybe 5, pinching myself to see if I'm still alive. Still, my actions are not my own. The man dictates what I do at home. Is this what average living looks like these days?
I mean, this is what average living looks like. People taking work home from their desk because what you've been tasked to do cannot be done in the 8 hours with the constant interruptions, answering emails, the meetings, back to back meetings, and yet still the core job still doesn't get the attention that it needs. And so, everybody wants to meet their targets, everybody wants to be able to come out from their reviews alive,
I know,
and
right?
still with their
I'm still
job intact,
employed.
unemployed, because you have the bills to pay, and guess what? You have the car payments, and you have the mortgage, and you have the child support, and you have the commitments, and you have the picnic them, and you just
Mhm.
have to do what you have to do, right? And so it becomes this mundane over and over,
Yep,
meeting these targets. Yeah,
that's
that's the
crazy.
average.
That is so. All right. Well, let's see where all we get up here now. We're gonna look at 4 through 7, and we want to the same somewhat robotic experience is looked at. The
Hmm.
difference now is that it's looking at it on the home front, not the job front. We're gonna look at some of the scenarios and see whether or not they infringe upon somebody's actual living. All right. Now, 4 through 7, real quickly, says, how is this, do you ask? Let's see. Where do I start? Pick the kids up. on time or pay the charge, no unapproved objects outside the garage, no sprinkling the lawn before sundown, no dogs unattended to run around. Excuse me, sir, your music's too loud. We're having an HOA meeting and you're disturbing the crowd. Ha! And don't even think of leaving your home in case some George Zimmerman wannabe lives in your town. Oh, wait, it's almost 8, a whole 2 hours for myself. I can hardly wait. Maybe I'll watch a game of soccer. That'll take me to 10, then up at 6 to do it all again. So let's look at um, a scenario like pick the kids up on time or pay the fee. Let's look at the HOA meeting um, or whatever is associated with HOA. Let's look at the George Zimmerman. Are these things actually infringing upon or living?
Of course, yeah, because I mean, sometimes you may be somewhere you may need to stay back at work late, to go back to that point to ensure that you're meeting your targets and earning. And you can't because you may not be in a financial situation that week to pay the extra at the daycare, right? So
Mhm.
you have to just rush out, and that impacts even anxiety, stress on people. You feel so tight, you
Yeah.
don't feel like you have a little wiggle room. George Zimmerman thing speaks to, racism and all the situations surrounding that,
Mhm.
even with raising your kids, you're more worried, especially when you're from our race. There's a lot for people to contend with, and those things produce anxiety and stress, and it does affect our everyday life. So, I would just say really that this poem really genuinely reflects. I think it's an awesome poem, by the way, because it really, really reflects what people are struggling through today. What the word I'm looking for is relevant. It's very relevant, and it causes you to process through and think and be like, wow, what adjustments can I make here,
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
get back
And
some.
some of the things you mentioned earlier too
Yeah,
can actually be brought to bear for somebody really realizing that they're in this state, asking themselves the question: Is this all life is? Is,
yeah,
is this it? Like,
is
what else can I do to change my situation? What else can I do to actually feel like I'm actually living? You know?
absolutely, yes,
All right,
and that's
now
purpose,
say again.
and that's purpose. We discussed it already.
For real. Now, work-life balance. How is this depicted in the poem, and how important is it that people today strive for that work-life balance?
Well, it's extremely important because I posted something like about this the other day. What's the purpose of the hustle and bustle
Mhm.
if there's no love, if there's no peace, if there's no joy, if it just becomes the monotonous mundane life? Nobody wants to live like that, you know what I'm saying? So definitely, it's very relevant, and it's important for us to maintain that balance and ensure that we're pouring into our relationships so that we can have a wholesome life. We want to be whole and wholesome,
Mhm.
so it's very important to have that balance.
I feel you. I'm with you when you're right, Sally. I'm with you when you're right. Now, now you had the book have holy poem. The book have holy poem. You could have choose any poem in the book. Why living?
Because living embodies how I felt before I wrote the Renewal, which
Okay.
was in 2017. I mean, it is my life. It was my life. The mundane, and I talk about in a lot of my speeches or my interviews where, you know, um, when you look at a picture specifically of me now, of me and my family, I know the average person thinks, oh my goodness, such a beautiful family, such beautiful people, which is true.
So you ain't gonna argue with them, right?
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna argue with you on that. However, I don't think we can truly tell the depth of everything that's going through on the heart of a man just from a picture. And in many of my pictures, what you would see on the outside is somebody very polished and very well put together. down, very distant from my purpose and why I was called on the planet. And I had gotten into the go to work, pick up the kids, go home, cook the dinner, put the kids to bed, do the homework, put the kids to bed, you get in bed, you go on the internet a little bit, you scroll a little bit, then you wake up and then you get the kids ready and it's a struggle, then you put them in the car, then you drop off. And then if you're not careful to, if you're married or you live with a partner, um, you can be get into this thing where you're so engaged in work and have settled so much into a routine that you and your partner become almost roommates in the house. Who wants to live like that?
I know, right?
Certainly not me. So I got, the reason why living was so profound for me is because I lived it. And the questions you ask in the poem, I had to start asking myself that. And I started to feel like work was, oh man, I go upon the slave. I don't want to feel like that. I don't want to go into a slave mindset when I go into work because
Yeah.
already I'm defeated. I'm defeated before I come out of the car. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
It's the
So
truth. It's the
in
truth.
order to add life to myself, to my day, to my routine, I had to find purpose.
Yeah.
Purpose saved my life because now when I go to my 9 to 5 and I'm living somebody else's vision out for 8 hours, rightly so, to get my money. But then when I leave there, I go and live out my own.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it adds context and flavor and layers to your life. And so now you don't feel so stressed and depressed going to the job. You just know this is my profession. I'm gonna enjoy my day. This is what I do to feed my family. But when I bounce, I'm gonna go home and do my thing.
Yeah.
Know?
Yes,
Yeah.
and you got to. Now, Sally, and here's the thing though. SallyAnn Gray has evolved as you have so rightly put it, right?
Yes.
Everybody not evolved yet, right? The last, let's see, the last four stanzas of the poem talk about that same kind of existence, but it kind of look at it like more practical. So it says living, but put simply having life. But is it living when your day lacks choice? It goes on to say, like it talks about the more practical aspect of it. It says, now, is this what living look like in these ends of days? Like, is this what living is? Um, and if you had a choice, you would know what you're missing. These are lines from the poem. And how much of this end of days type living is choice versus um, what you are? How much of this is, and how much of this is something that you can actually shake and move on from?
Well, to be honest with you, I'll start answering that question by sharing something a little bit personal. So when I got into that mindset of the talking about what you spoke about in the poem earlier, oh, I'm not going to go on nobody's slave for the rest of my life and this and that. That's why I tell people don't run and leave your job because of an emotion, because
Right.
I did it and you were dead for hungry. Right? I run out of 9 to 5 and I had to run go right back into it.
Yeah. The plan wasn't solid at the time.
No, it wasn't solid at the time. And so um when you talk about choice, everybody has a choice. Anybody on this live, you, Martin, me, you can walk off of your 9 to 5 tonight.
Mhm.
You can
Okay.
send in a resignation letter with immediate effect. You can.
Mm-hmm.
You can.
Mm-hmm.
You can choose to or you can choose not to. But every decision has implications. And so now, as well thinking and mature adults, we start to look at I have the power to choose what I do and how I live, but there are implications to everything.
Right.
So if you feel convicted enough that a certain lifestyle is not for you, what you have to do is make the decision and then determine the timeline.
Mm-hmm.
And when you make the decision and determine the timeline, then you can now come up with a strategy so that you have your exit strategy down pat.
Mm-hmm.
Because freedom and time is the thing that most people really want. You don't really want to be an entrepreneur if you're not called to entrepreneurship. What you
Right.
want is your freedom and your time. So, how can I work this world in a way where I have freedom to decide how I use my time? Because everybody needs to be gainfully employed, even if it's in your own business. And let's be honest, unless you are one of the I don't talk about luck. I believe in miracles. I don't believe in luck.
Right.
But unless you're one of those anomalies in our generation who just going invent some crazy thing that does blow up
Blow.
globally, and you earn you're going to have this multi-billion-dollar company right away. If you have not been born into a family business that is already established and going and growing, it's going to take you. If you're a first generation entrepreneur in your family, it's going to take you a while to build.
Right.
So what are you going to do in that year or 2 years to where you build your business to where it's earning the same or more than your current 9 to 5? That's where strategy comes in. Okay. So if you want your time and you want your freedom, now you can strategize. Boy, I need to work. I don't think full-time entrepreneurship is for me, but what job, what function on the planet will give me more of my time and freedom where I can set my own hours? Maybe you may think about going into sales. Maybe you might start thinking about selling insurance or doing the real estate course and passing that. Maybe you never thought of yourself as a real estate agent, but what you want is your time and your freedom.
Right.
So you have a choice. So you start looking at career options that will give you your time and your freedom in a way that will make your life have more meaning, and that will make you happy. Because I say right now, my goal is happy, healthy, wealthy. That's
There
it
you
for me.
go. There you
Happy,
go.
healthy, and wealthy. So whatever is going to impede on my happiness and my health and me attaining wealth, the kind of wealth that I want, and my wealth is not solely determined by money. Wealth of knowledge, wealth of love, wealth of friendship. That's the kind of wealthy I want, you
Mhm.
know. So you can, that's something practical that you guys can start thinking about, because it's not entrepreneurship people really want. And I think that's where the disconnect is. People
Right.
think that they have to leave their job
I'll
and
go.
become an entrepreneur
Mhm.
to feel happy.
Right.
And what you really want is to be more in control of your time and your freedom. And because even when you become an entrepreneur, let me tell you this,
You
you
know,
have
easy.
less time, because if you don't move, no money don't go in
Nothing
your pocket.
moves. Right.
But
Right.
when you are working for another man, you can call in sick because you get 10 sick days for the week and you for the year, and you still will get your paycheck. You can take a mental health break. But when
Mhm.
you're doing entrepreneurship and you're actively building that business, it's no days off.
Right.
So it's just a food for thought for people to think about.
All right,
Uh,
I got one more thing for you, Sally, before
yes,
we jump off.
yes.
Now, the last stanza of the poem talks about an illusion. It says, "A screen an illusion that puts you in charge. Mind control at its best, the ultimate mirage. Free like we want to be, not even close. There goes my alarm initiating Monday's woes." Now, two things I want to join together here. Your thought process on that illusion that we create, that we are in control of our lives. When are we in control of our lives? And the mindset that one would need to actually get themselves out to where they're actually in charge.
Well, Corona has showed us that we're not in charge of anything. Really, because the political powers that be have basically made it to where if you want to move in any kind of semblance of normalcy, keep your job and travel and do a lot of things, that you have to take a vaccine, that if you're not pro-vaccine, you feel
Right.
forced to do so. Same goes for work. We don't really, we have choice, but we still have to fall in line with some basic cultural dynamics that we've come to know. And so, the Monday woes thing, I would just offer to people that Monday will be woeful if you choose for Monday to be woeful. Okay. And so it's a mindset that you have to approach to say, again, understand the difference between profession and purpose, understand what you do to feed your family, and understand what you do to feed yourself and to feed your audience and to serve the people that you're called to serve. And I think that that will help to kind of alleviate the Monday woe syndrome. Monday will be woeful if you expect it to be woeful, and if you're solely dependent on that 9 to 5 job for your happiness and your identity,
You
which I
probably want to wrap your
certainly
head around it
I'm
somehow.
not. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not anymore.
All right, well, SallyAnn, it's been real, man. I not even. I'm usually trying to keep myself inside a time frame. I was having a good time. The content was good, and I just let it ride. I just hit the cruise control button and let it ride. Now, before we hop off here, any last comments you want to share with us about SallyAnn Gray, about mindset, about poetry, about living before we go?
you know Guys, our goal really should be to be happy, healthy, and wealthy, whatever that means to you. And so my charge to you tonight is to ask yourself the question, what am I doing to ensure that I'm living a happy life, a healthy life, and a wealthy life? And what are some things that I can phase out and phase in to ensure that that happens?
Amen to that. Amen to
Yes.
that. SallyAnn Gray, it's been real, my dear. Thank you
And then
so
I'll
much for
just
taking time.
encourage the viewers. Sorry, you can, I know sometimes after I do an interview, people have personal questions and so on. Follow me on Facebook and on Instagram. I'm on Instagram as SallyAnn Speaks. It's the platform I use the most. I'm on Facebook, but I'm not as responsive on Facebook as I should be. So you can follow me on Instagram at SallyAnn Speaks, on Facebook as SallyAnn Gray. Inbox me if you have any personal questions. I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist.
Disclaimer.
I promise I'm not. I am not an expert with mental health issues either. But what I am is somebody who is passionate about people, and I love people. And if there's something that I can do to help somebody move the needle forward in their life, I'll definitely do that, if it means even just answering a question. So hit me up on my social media platforms. All
Yes,
right.
man. Put them in the comments, Sally. Put them in the comments so they can find you.
Oh, how do I
No,
access?
no, when we're done, you can put it in at any time. You can put it there at any time. All right. Well, Sally, thank you so much. It's been real, and do take care, my dear.
All right. Talk soon.
Yeah,
Talk
man.
soon.
All right, peoples. That is the ball game. That is the ball game. I had a good time. I hope you had a good time too. That was SallyAnn Gray. Like I said, the show is exactly as I expected it to be. SallyAnn brings a power punch. That's why I have my power punch shirt on. This is my power punch. That was for SallyAnn. SallyAnn brings the power punch when she comes to town. Total rawness, total realness, total life, total liberty, and always positivity. And that's what Even People Show is about. And that's why SallyAnn Gray was on the Even People Show. Now, if it was your first time joining the show, if you haven't yet subscribed to the YouTube channel, the Martin Matthews Project, go ahead and do that. If you want to check out a copy of the book back here, it's called Love, Life, Confrontation, Expressions, Selections from the Chronicles of a Black Man. It is in Jamaica at Fontana Pharmacies in Montego Bay, Mandeville, and both Kingston locations. It is available worldwide at Amazon.com. And like the lady said, man, shake up yourself, get your mind right. Get your mind right. If you have something that's not working, change it. If you have people around you that are not moving in the direction that you want to be moving in, change them. If you have a job that seems like it's a treadmill and like a hamster, you just keep going and going, you need to change something. Find what you're passionate about, seek it out, and employ it to get used to the next level. All right. And until next time, on a walk good, no man.